Good afternoon, 108. This is a short video introduction to that last group of scales that we need to do. I call it group 4, as we've talked about throughout the year. Your textbook, your Alfred textbook, groups scales into 3 groups. Group 1, C, G, D, A, E. Group 2, B, F, F sharp, C sharp, they put as one group. I had separated those into a group 2 and a group 3. And then group 4, what I'm calling group 4, they're calling group 3, but needless, it's E flat, A flat, B flat. So these are those last 3 scales that you need to do for the pass off. It's the last 3 that you need to learn that could possibly be on your proficiency. E flat, A flat, B flat, all the way through our scales, I've stressed to you how I think it's really important to be able to think of them in a group as to what they have in common. I feel like that's going to help you memorize the fingering. It's going to help you to know when you're looking at your hand what to expect and why it looks a certain way. And so same thing happens with E flat, A flat, and B flat. As you know, I can't even tell you what page it is on in your text, but you certainly can look it up. I think it's more important that you can look at the keys and say, I know it's a 4 cross because I know this happens, or I know it's going to line up like a cluster. So on my little whiteboard here that I have, I'll back up so you can see it. Group 4, E flat, A flat, B flat. Here's what I think is important to know about it. The left hand is the same for all 3 of those scales. The left hand fingering is 3, 2, 1, 4. I've got this 4 squared or circled, or I'm pointing it out to you because this is where it's so easy to make a mistake. It feels uncomfortable to bring a 4 all the way over that thumb, and it's not going to look right. We've had so many scales where we've been emphasizing, look at the clusters to know what the crossover is, and this is not going to look correct. If we try it, let's try it on E flat. So again, think about what tones you're going to need in E flat. I always encourage you to spell 1 octave, both hands, in a tetrachord fashion so you can just see where those flats are. Now try that left hand with me. I'm going to bring my hand up 1 octave. Hopefully it's a little easier for you to see. So 3 on E flat, 2 on F, thumb on G. Here's that unusual cross. You can see that 4, it doesn't look right for a cluster because it's the middle of a 3. It is correct. 3, 2, 1, 3. Do that again for me. 3, 2, 1. And then if you'll remember, unusual cross, both in how it feels and how it looks. 3, 2, 1, 3. And then you're going to go back down the same exact way, remembering that thumb was on G. Try it with A flat. Take a minute, think about where your flats are going to be, what pitches that you need for that left hand. Left hand, 3, 2, 1. Here's that big cross of a 4, and yes, it does not look right. That is not how we normally would line up a cluster of 2. It is correct for this scale. 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Back down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. The last scale of this group, B flat, follows the exact same strategy. Again, take a minute, find your notes that you're going to need. In particular, take a look at where those flats are falling. It's the last of a group of 2, last of a group of 3. Let's try this left hand fingering here. 3, 2, 1. Over with a 4. Does not look right for a cluster. It doesn't feel real comfortable. 4, 3, 2, 1. Over with a 3. So you're ending how we started. Back to your thumb. 2, 3, 4, thumb, 2, 3. So E flat, A flat, B flat, I think they're tricky because they're not following patterns that are easy to see, but I do think if you memorize the strategy or memorize that 4 cross doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, it's very helpful. I would encourage you to spend at least a week probably working hands separate, getting that left hand really feeling comfortable and then extending it to 2 octaves. When you are working with your right hand for E flat, A flat, B flat is different for all three, and I've listed them here. Hopefully you can just stop your video and write down that fingering if you need to. They do have things in common though. Again, just like we found group 2 and group 3, memorize what a fingering has in common. What the right hand has in common for E flat, A flat, B flat is it does always follow the cluster. So it is going to line up 2 and 3 on a group of 2, or 2, 3, 4 on a group of 3. The other thing you're going to notice is every time you're at the end of a cluster, at the end of a group of 2 or end of a group of 3, it's going to be a thumb tuck. So if we take a look at E flat starts on the second of a group of 2. A group of 2 would be lined up with fingers 2 and 3, so that means my fingering is going to start with a 3. I'm at the end of a cluster, I'm going to tuck my thumb, 2, 3, 4, tuck my thumb, 2, 3. Going back down, I'm on my thumb. You can use that visual of a cluster, 3 black keys over with a 4, even though you're not going to use all 3 of those black keys. 2, 1, 3. So now using that same strategy, think about A flat. A flat is starting in the middle of a group of 3. Group of 3 would be my 3 middle fingers. That middle note A flat would be where my finger 3 is laying. That's an easy way to remember how A flat's going to start. 3, 4, I'm at the end of a cluster, so I tuck my thumb. Cluster of 2, 2, 3, end of a cluster, I'm going to tuck my thumb, 2, 3, and back down, 2, 1. Look at your cluster to dictate a 3 cross, 2, 1. Look at your cluster to dictate a 4 cross, 3. That leaves B flat. B flat is the end of a group of 3. So again, if you visualize group of 3, 3 middle fingers, B flat would be falling right here on my 4. So unusual that we're starting on a 4. You're at the end of a cluster right there, so what's going to happen? A thumb tuck. 2, 3, end of a cluster, thumb tuck. 2, 3, 4. Going back down, 3, 2, 1. Look at your cluster to tell you you're crossing with a 3. Yes, I know, even though 2 wouldn't be a flat, use it as a visual. What are you going to end with? Again, visualize that cluster all the way over with a 4. So E flat, A flat, B flat. Unusual fingerings, but I think if you take the time to play it and really think about what you know it has in common. Same left hand, unusual cross. Right hand following clusters, thumb after a cluster. They do make sense. When we put them together, there's no easy trick to look for like there was with our group 1, 3s, right thumb, left thumb pattern, or seeing the thumbs together in the middle for group 2, or watching the clusters on group 3. These scales, to me, your best bet is to be watching each hand at the same time and thinking about what you know about that pattern. There isn't really an easy way to mesh it together. So that's why my advice to you is memorize these fingerings. Memorize them now. Memorize them off this chart. Memorize them from doing them. And get them very solid, one hand at a time. And then when you're ready in 4 or 5 days' time, put them together. But when you put them together, your strategy for speaking out loud is going to be watching. So if I'm doing E flat, my right hand's a tuck. My left hand is that unusual cross. End of a cluster, thumb right tuck. How I begin, 3s. End of a cluster, right thumb. Unusual cross left. End of a cluster, right thumb. At the top, so I'm on 3s how I started. Back down to my left thumb, right thumb, look at the cluster in the right for a 4. Left thumb, right thumb, 3s on tonic is how I began. Left thumb, right thumb, 4, seeing that cluster in my right. Left thumb, right thumb ending with 3s. Talk out loud to yourself. Teach your invisible student. Recognize what you're doing. Verbalize why you're doing it. And I think that's your best safety bet for getting E flat, A flat, and B flat hands together 2 octaves. If you'd like to do some one-on-one coaching or lessons with it, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, and we can do some practice together. But talk out loud. You can be your own best teacher in that manner, and memorize what the fingering is, what to watch for, and why it is that way. Good luck.